My guests at this time are WWE Hall of Famers. They are also 35-time tag team champions. It is Luke. It is Butch. It's the Bushwackers. Thank you very much for taking some time to chat with me here today, guys.
Whoa, good day, mateys at Wrestling Inc. Bushwhacker Luke here, and I'm glad to speak to all the fans out there who listen to Wrestling Inc. podcast.
Thank you very much, Luke and Butch. Great to see you as well. Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome, mate. It's good to be aboard, and g'day, mateys.
Yes, wow. I am thrilled to get to talk to you guys. This is huge news. It's been 20 years. You are reuniting for one more big run. Let's start right there. Why now? Why did you two feel like it was the time to get together for one more run?
Well, mate,
You know why? Where you go, Butch?
you can go in.
One more run before we see the other side of the earth.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Butch, why'd you feel like this the time now? Yeah.
Actually, mate, Nick, we were in the shed, the sharing shed, back there in the old country farm,
Yeah.
and they did a lot of repairs on us. You know, we got a few new joints, we got a few new parts, we got a little bit of oil, we got a little bit of spit and polish, and boy, oh boy, they made us into nearly new again. And then we went out there and we chased a few woolly sheep around those paddocks, and Luke was after Molly, Polly, Holly, Dolly, Lolly, and he was catching them all. And when he caught the last one, he knew he was ready. I'm still after my last one, so I am so close, it's unreal. But those woolly girls, boy, are they pretty over here in New Zealand.
Wow. That I don't even know how to respond to that. That was amazing. That was incredible. Well, it sounds like you guys are good to go. And in the press release I got, you're advertised as you can either get the Goodfellas or you can get the most violent tag team in pro wrestling history, which I don't think a lot of fans that are at least from the 90s era or a little after, they don't really know the Bushwhackers, the Sheep Herders, is this like ultra violent tag team. I had to go back and watch some video, and Luke, you guys got pretty crazy back then, you know?
Boy, we were known as the bloodiest and hardcore tag team ever, from the late 70s right through the 80s. When we started doing this sort of stuff way back in 66.
Right.
And the first tour was over to Asia, and where I led Butch around on a collar and chain. It was Sweet William and brutal
Nick Carter.
uh,
Crazy Nick Carter.
no, I'm talking about in Asia.
Oh, sorry, no, that was Canada.
Yeah. It was Butch. It was brutal Bob Miller.
Wow.
Brute Miller. And
Yeah.
when we first come over to this side of the world, we done a lot of Asia, Japan, and all that sort of stuff. And then 72, we come over this side as Sweet William and the Brute, the Beauty and the Beast. And the promoter said, the Brute has already been all over the country. Brute Barnard, and there was another Brute too. Bugsy McGraw was Brute, another Brute. And so they changed it. I guess he looked at it. What was it? He looked at the shelf and he saw a book. It was a bloody detective book, Nick Carter. So they changed his name to Crazy Nick Carter. That was our first promotion in North America, Grand Prix out of Montreal. And at the time, you know, I'm not saying we weren't green in wrestling, but we're green to the business this side of the world.
Yeah.
And later on, we found out that at that time, that was one of the biggest promotions running in North America. That's when they broke the record of an attendance in Jerry Park, where they had the games. Was it the Commonwealth Games or the Olympic Games in 66 in Montreal?
Yeah.
We did 30,000 people at a show there. It was a monster show. And then I read, you know, over history of time that in Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, and Ontario, they were the hotbeds of wrestling. in those days. All of the main stars worked there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys worked with a lot of people, but before you went on this crazy journey you guys did, I mean, all over the world, everywhere. Butch, I'll throw to you. Go back to from the beginning here. I mean, you guys started, I believe, as NWA New Zealand. I mean, you're in a part of the world that's much smaller. It's the late '60s. What is pro wrestling like in New Zealand? How did you guys get involved in the
When
business?
we started, Nick, not only there was no wrestling in New Zealand on television. In fact, when we started, there was no television in New Zealand.
Oh,
So we hadn't even seen professional wrestling on TV. It was only that the promoter would bring in one overseas guy, and he would take him around the country and mainly wrestle him and use an undercard who were like us. So, and they would bring guys mainly from England. So the first lot of style that we learned was mainly English style. There was no punching, there was no kicking, there was rounds, there was no, you couldn't go a 10-minute thing. It was rounds. They would have six-minute rounds or 8-minute rounds would be the longest. And in between each round, the bell would go, you'd have to stop. The wrestling rings were boxing rings. We were wrestling in boxing rings.
oh my
You
God.
had to have a permission to get a license to run.
4 ropes, tell them, Butch.
Yeah, four ropes in the boxing ring.
20 feet apart. 20 feet.
No springs.
Oh my God.
And the floors were like the floor you're standing on now, Nick.
Yeah.
The floor like that, and there was 4 ropes, and the ropes had to be 20 feet apart. The police with the commission, and it was a shoot. They would come and measure. Now this is the stupid part. They would come and measure from rope to the other side to make sure it was 20 feet. If it was 19 and a half feet, the guys would have to come out and tighten the ropes up to get it to 20 feet. Now, what the hell is that about? But the commission, and if you push, as Butch said, if you laid a punch in or a kick, you could do a forearm or an uppercut, the British uppercut.
Okay.
And that, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That the uppercut,
Yeah.
or a forearm like that, and you could do a knee drop. But if you did kick the guy or punch him, the police would come in the ring and stop the match.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, as Butch said, the main event was 8-minute rounds, and if you didn't do over six 8-minute rounds, the fucking people would boo you, and you wouldn't see a house. You wouldn't see a house the next time. They would drop off. So you had to get them at least. And then the other matches were, as he said, were 6-minute rounds or 5-minute rounds, and there'd be 6 5-minute rounds or 8 5-minute rounds, and you at least had to do 30 minutes. You had to do 30 minutes then.
Oh, we lost you, Luke. You're somewhere. You disappeared.
Hang on a minute. I gotta plug the battery in.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Wow, Butch, that's wild. That's
Yeah, it was crazy. And also too, Nick, once you could wrestle, you used to wrestle twice a night. I used to do like the semi-main event because I was a heavyweight. Luke was a light heavyweight then.
okay.
And I used to wrestle against someone for about 6 rounds. Then I would come back with someone as a tag team against what was the main event. And I would be working the tag team as well. So I was working twice a night. Luke would have to do a tag team as well sometimes. Then when you were really learning, you'd have to help put up the ring and help take it down. And we would all go around in the back of an ambulance converted to like a semi-bus with a big trailer on it, and the ring was on the back of the trailer like a circus. And that's how we traveled around New Zealand day after day after day, every night for 10-day tours.
So I would imagine, and again, I only have so much time with you guys, but I would imagine that at some point a veteran that's down in New Zealand sees you all and then brings you to tour Asia and then and start working in Canada and elsewhere. Then is that kind of loosely how things work then? Okay.
Yes.
We were brought over to the US by a notorious tag team, the Vachons,
Correct.
Morris Vachon and Butcher. Butcher more or less was the one that was brought us over there, and that, you know, with Morris, and that was in 1972.
Yes, and so Luke, so you guys start with this really traditional British background, which is wild to think where you ended. When did this ultra violent person? Where did you learn that style? Where did that come from for you?
That just sort of came. We still, when we were doing the Middle East, I had Butch on a collar and chain.
Yeah.
You know, I'd lead him around, like, as I said, Sweet William and the Brute, and
Right.
and then it became crazy Nick Carter. And
what happened was they gave me the name of Nick Carter. They didn't have the crazy.
Right.
The first interview we did, and they had never seen us do an interview. I dropped down on the floor, I kicked my legs, and I went crazy on the floor. Well, Edward Capontier, who was one of the bookers and that there, and a shareholder, he saw that and he fell in love with that gimmick straight away. So from that first night of TV, they put the crazy gimmick on me. But the trouble was with it, Nick, Luke would lead me out to the ring and I'd be going all crazy. And by the time I got to the ring, I was bloody near blowing up. And then we'd have to have the match because I'd be going through the chairs and making out, going through the people, you know. And oh, mate, I never worked so bloody hard in all my life. But we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
So you guys also, you two worked a lot in Puerto Rico as well, right before you got to WWE and then after WWE as well. I mean, it seems like you really made that a home. How crazy was it working in Puerto Rico? What was the fanship like? Yeah, I figured that would be.
It's real crazy, mate.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give it, for instance,
Okay.
you know, before we did a lot of angles. The first one we did, we were brought in, and that we'd never been to Puerto Rico. This was 1980, and we'd never been to there before. And I think it was 80, yeah, around 80. And the promoter said, he was the Hulk Hogan of Puerto Rico and the Caribbean, Carlos Colon.
Sure.
You know, his sons have been in WWE and all that. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, all the, you know, the storyline. And he said, I'm going to be, and the show starts at 8:30. At 7:30, I'm going to be signing in the lobby. He says, you usually come in the back door, but this time I'm going to have people, your driver, pick you up and bring you to the front of the building. And you guys come in through the front. We had a flagpole, right? It was, and it wasn't copper. It was steam pipe. You ever know what steam pipe is?
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it had a knuckle in the middle where you could unscrew it because we carried it in a pouch. You know, each piece was about three feet long. So he said, I want you to come in the lobby and fucking burst through the people. Now, he was signing free photos. Carlos, on this night, everyone that came in and bought a ticket got a free photo. And he was signing there. We burst in there and that split the flagpole in and beat him to death. There was blood on the walls, everything. The ambulance came and took him. And they called for an ambulance and that, and security come and got us off him. And we went to the back and that. We were the main event that night. This is our first night in. The main event was Carlos Colon and the Invader. Yeah. Invader 1, who was the number 2 babyface on the island. And so Carlos was taken away in an ambulance. And that come the match, you know, Invader come out and he says, blah, blah, blah. And he says, I'm going to do this on his own. They told him not to do it. He says, I got to do it just because these pigs have come in here and they've done a disgraced our main guy and all that bloody shit.
Yeah.
So we started working with him. We started working with him in the ring. Finally, we got him down and we bloodied him up and that, and then all of a sudden, an ambulance pulled into the back of an arena, and out of the passenger seat, Carlos got out with a fucking axe handle and hit the ring. and hit the ring. The fucking people went mad. We took 1 or 2 shots, just a shot, and got out of dodge. So we kept our heat. And that was our first time in Puerto Rico.
And it was all that wild and violent. Yeah, Butch. Yeah.
As you know, Mark, is a very, not Mark, sorry, Nick, as you know, very, very violent place. Most of our matches, big matches that they have, are in ballparks, and they don't have no ringside. Up in front of the whole of the stands are these huge big nets. So, because what they do, they get the cups, what they have their beer in or drinks in, they fill them with either stones or ice, pack them down, and
Or
they would
lime.
cut the
Or
wrestlers
lime.
in the ring. And that's how crazy they were. So they have to put this huge big net all the way up in front of the grandstands, huge grandstands. So, and they still lob them over the top and would get us now and again. But because they had no ringside, it's the only thing that saved our ass. Because many times when we were there, we had to fight our way to the ring. We had to have the match, which was blood and guts. And then we'd have to fight our way back out through the ring because the crowd would get there somehow. They'd have all these security guys around the ring with shields, batons, big face guards on them and everything. As soon as those Puerto Ricans got hot, they would say, "Get out of the way or we will kill you."
Oh my God.
And the guards would take a step back. And so we were theirs. So the only thing that saved Luke and I many times, as well as ourselves, was the boys would come out of the dressing room and help us to fight our way back to the dressing room.
It was
Time after time after time.
the worst part was going from the park under the dugout because they'd lean over and pound you just before you come to the dugout. They'd pound you. Anyhow, short story, Nick.
Sure.
Short story.
Go for it.
Bruiser Brody got killed in 88. God bless him. 33 years ago.
Right.
And a good friend. Frank was a good friend of ours. You know, he was a partner. We lived in San Antonio. I was a booker there, and Frank. We used Frank a lot because he lived about 25 miles out. He had a little spread there. Spread is a little farm. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Anyhow, when he died, the business went down. Oh, and this is WWC, Carlos's company,
Yeah.
Capital Sports, and it came. They did one house where they got 12,000 people on an anniversary show where they did something big. So after we finished, we came with Vince. We came back as baby faces, and then we turned back for we came back as baby faces 2 weeks. We came in for 6 weeks before the big anniversary show.
Okay.
Right. For 6 weeks, and then we had 2 weeks off, and we had the show. Right. We came in as baby faces, turned to heels. We started working with the Invaders again, who we had history from way back. You know,
Sure.
We had at least 15 years history with them. Right, on and off, and we did a cage match with them in the 6 weeks in the end, and we crucified Jose. Jose is Invader 1. We
Okay.
tied him up with barbed wire on the side of the ring.
Oh my
You
God.
know, on the side of the ring, like a cross. And that was because it was gloves. We tied them up with barbed wire many times and different times for big shows.
Yeah.
And anyhow, we tied him up and crucified him on the cage and left him there bleeding. And then that was the thing. That was the setup for the big anniversary show. Come the anniversary show, it was an ambulance match or was something boot camp match. I think it was a boot camp match. And all the big shows, they put seats on the lawn. They put about 4,000. Depends how many ringside tickets they sold. But these big shows, when times were good before Brody died, they draw between 22, 24,000. In the 20,000s.
Wow.
25, 24. So they had ringside this time, and the match, we did a little thing. You know, Carlos brought us back, and we put the plan together. Because I'd been booking down there before for Carlos.
Yeah.
And so we put this whole program, Butch and me back, we come back and that. And this night, it was the Invader, it's supposed to be Invader 3 and Invader 1 against Butch and me, but they brought in Invader 2. You know, I forget his name. He's from New Jersey. He's Puerto Rican, but he lives in New Jersey.
Okay.
Anyhow, I got the heart punch at the end from Invader 1, right?
Right.
The referee went down for the count. Butch threw the flagpole to Invader 2, and Invader 2 whacked fucking Invader 1 over the back.
Oh my
and
God.
The fucking riot. We showed the video the next day. We showed the video on television, Puerto Rico, the next day, and that showed us paying Invader 1 off a week beforehand in the gym. And that we showed a video. And that I still remember he didn't understand why we never showed the video before. Remember that, Butch? We said, the fucking, you idiot, we wouldn't have fucking done the thing. We wouldn't have got the ending. That's how dumb he was.
Wow.
Anyhow, now listen, I'm laid out. When you get the hard punch, you're carried to the back on a stretcher. When Invader 2, when Butch threw that flagpole to Invader 1 and he hit Invader, and Invader 2 hit Invader 1, the fucking crowd went nuts. Wow. They came out of the stands, everything. I had to go back to the fucking, on a stretch at the back, and Butch followed me on the stretch, and they had guards and all that around us. Now that was about 20 minutes to get me from the ring to the back. And that now the next match, the people rioted. It was an hour and a half before the next match went to the ring.
Wow, because there was a riot going on, and so the show just
that finish caused a riot, and of course Invader and I put that together, Butch and me, and Invader 1 had a run with Invader 2 for about 3 or 4 months after that. I never made any money out of that. I should have. We should have, because we put that, but that's how. And the house was enormous. It was in the 20s again, which it hadn't been since Brody died.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
And that was our last.
A small island. A very small island, Nick.
Yeah. No, I'd love to go. I've heard some wild stories. That's crazy. And so, like, how do you guys go from being ultra-violent, crazy tag team to beloved Bushwackers licking children? How does Vince McMahon get a hold of you? How does he transfer you into this new persona then?
We transferred ourselves, mate. But Vince gave us the name, and
yeah, go ahead, Butch.
We did it ourselves. He gave us the name because he wanted to own the Bushwacker name.
Okay.
But he didn't tell us how to go. He just said, I want to have you as baby faces. And I jumped up on his desk right there, first time I ever met him, on my hands and knees. I had my face a couple of inches from his. I says, mate, I don't care if you make us a baby face, if you put a dress on us, whatever. We just want to make some money. And
no, you said, Butch. You said too. How can you make these faces baby faces? Right. And that's what he said.
Faces, yeah. I said, if you can make these faces into drawing money as baby faces, you go right ahead. That's when he said to us, Luke, you tell him.
He said to us, look at my top baby faces. Look at the mugs. Look at the mugs on my top baby faces. Hulk Hogan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake the Snake. He said they're not pretty looking guys.
That's true. Yeah. You guys definitely fit the mold at that time. And so, whose idea was it to start licking everybody? Was that something you did before, or was that a new thing when you joined the WWE?
That was Butch's. Yeah, Butch always wanted to lick. Butch is from down under. He always wanted to lick down under.
Okay.
I always, all my life, Nick, I've always done things off the cuff, just without even thinking, really. And I used to, when we're going around the ringside marching around, sometimes I would bend down and put my head back, and people would be banging on my head, and when you saw it on camera, it was good reaction, but they were beating the shit out of my head, you know, because they were getting carried away. Yeah. So it wasn't too good for my head. So I thought, there's got to be an easier way. So I grabbed this guy one time as I was going around, and I thought, shit, I'm going to try this. And I gave him a lick from one under the chin, right over the forehead. Well, that just got over like $1 million. So from then on, that's what we did. And of course, except to see me years later, and died in the waiting on the hospital bed and that. I possibly wish I never did. Luke had the right way. He would put his hand over to lick his hand, but you couldn't really see him not licking him. That way, I started to have to do that in the end as well. But the licking now, well, obviously, we'll have to stop now. But the beauty of this whole thing now, Nick, is we can either be the Bushwackers or the sheep herders, or we can be, you know, the Nick Carter and crazy Nick Carter and Sweet William. We can be anything we want. And they have never seen us change in a match or different things that we could do from both types of personality that we've portrayed in the ring.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we'll be able to show our talents off a lot better without being restricted to either a bushwhacker or a sheep herder.
Well, I got 2 questions real quick. I know I'm at time, so if that's all right, Michael, I know I'm giving you the Iggy right here for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
First question. I'd love to have you guys back, by the way. We didn't even get to 80% of what
I no.
Sit back and enjoyed the stories, but
we're scratching on the surface, Nick.
I'm sorry, excuse me, what?
We're scratching on the surface.
Oh, scratchy. Okay, I thought you said thank you for your service. I've never served in the military.
I know you haven't serviced me yet, mate.
It's just sorry. No, my first question is I'm going to ask on behalf of all the fans that would probably ask is, how do you feel about never holding the tag titles? You're Hall of Famers, obviously, but why do you think you never had the tag team titles in WWE?
Oh, I'm telling you the story. This is a shoot, mate.
Okay.
The
long story.
Tully and Iron had the belts, and we were put with them, and that we set it up, and I don't know, we did a bit of an angle, and you know those days on television we had jobbers. What do you call them now? Guys that come in and they put you over.
Sure, enhancement talent. Sure, yeah.
Enhancement talent. And that. Yeah, so we're doing the battering ram on enhancement talent, and Butch, you know, he does whoa, and the guy's getting up on the other side of the ring, and he puts me in a headlock, and he's running me, and my head's supposed to hit the gentleman's stomach. The guy freaked out and turns, and my head hit his hip, and I cracked the vertebrae in my neck. A light hair fractured. You know, I was out for 10 weeks, and Butch had to run with Tully a couple of 3 weeks till they changed the brain busters with someone else. So I killed our chance for the belts there.
Oh man!
But our characters like us and that, we don't actually need belts.
Yeah.
You know, we were over without belts. You more or less, if you were more of a wrestler, you know, like Tully and Arn, they were wrestlers. You know what I mean?
As Vince used to do, nearly every town that we went in once we were over, he would put our match on last because he always wanted to send the people home happy. They called it the happy pattern. The main event would be on before us or 2 before us, and then we would be saved to the very last match. We would go on there, the music, the yay, whoa, you know, and all this, and the people would go home so happy that that's the pattern. So we did that for many years with the WWE.
Yeah, no,
we didn't need a belt for that.
I just recently went back and watched the 1992 Royal Rumble with a friend of mine, and the loud reaction, the pop you guys get. I mean, just a sea of everybody just doing this all at once. I mean, yeah, you guys, much like Hacksaw Jag and
Butch is so mad. I'm pissed off too because Vince stopped putting us on the promo for Royal Rumble in 2018 was the last time that they had me, me marching in and out the ring.
Sure.
The 4 second thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
He never, 219, 220, he never showed me. At 221 the other day.
Yeah.
In the pre-shows, he never used that anymore. He stopped that at 218, but he kept playing that from the year it happened for 218. And another thing on that, Butch was still pissed off, as you would have heard when we went in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, no, I do recall that.
He was in for 25 minutes. I was in for 4 seconds, and we both got the same payoff.
And I was the guy that told him to keep marching. When he knew he had to go in and out, I said, just keep marching and march your way back to the dressing room. And that got over more than anything else in that battle royal.
Wow.
When they used to say to us, which one of you two did the walked in and walked out? I said, we'll never forget that. Never. Isn't it amazing what a simple thing like that, and that's got recognized over guys that was in the ring for half an hour busting their guts.
Yeah. Wow.
And Nick,
yeah.
You can believe it or not, from 210, I worked in Puerto Rico and I didn't wrestle because I was running the company for IWA. But from 210 onwards, I've been booked at independent shows, and they've asked me, just for the Battle Royal, can you come in and do what you did for Vince?
Oh, nice.
I just got booked for that, march out, get up, and march back for a payoff.
Yeah, hey, whatever works. Guys, I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much for the time. I'd love to have you back. You guys have a lot more to get to here. It sounds like matches, appearances, things like that. I'll start with you. We'll go, Butch. Any place you want to send people to find you, follow you, support you, learn more about what you guys are doing right now?
Luke's more into the names of the internet and that, so I would rather you ask him that. But all I'm interested in is I'm just interested in coming.
Okay, Nick.
I'll be marching and we'll be on a roll. And here is Cousin Luke.
Awesome.
Yay.
Okay, and Nick, if you want to get hold of us, it's Bushwacker Luke, Facebook Bushwacker Butch, and Instagram Bushwacker Luke, Twitter Bushwacker Luke, and there'll be a new page going up for the Bushwackers. A new page on Facebook going up for the Bushwackers, and a new website. Because as we just got back together for this tour, which we hope to do a tour 221, 222. And anytime you want to get us back, talk to Michael. And talk to Michael, because we just touched on the outside of a lot of tell you a lot of stories going back to our days working for Stu in the early 70s. We worked against people like Stu Hart. We worked against people. Stu Hart was in the ring with his son. With his two sons against Dynamite Kid and Butch and me. That was in the late 70s when we went back for 6 weeks. In the early 70s, we worked against Killer Kowalski, who sold out the Madison Square Garden. In the 60s, we worked with The Rock's grandfather in Australia and New Zealand, and Butch worked him and we worked with The Rock's father all around the world.
Yeah.
And I worked with Peter Maivia in Samoa. They had one match. Me and Peter was my first overseas trip, and there was only one professional match on, and there was 10 amateur boxing matches on our undercard, and it was such a great match. And something happened at the end. We haven't got time to tell you that, but anyway, something happened at the end that they pulled me aside, and I was lucky to get out of there with my life for that, and signed us up for another match, which we sold out again. And this time I didn't see daylight, and I was so happy that I didn't. Otherwise, I would have been in the Samoan cooking pot.